Neon Genesis Evangelion episodes 9 through 17 are an interesting affair. They are perhaps the least talked about and remembered episodes of the series. The overall plot progresses only incrementally in these episodes. They are more character-centered, focusing on the characters in their everyday Evangelion environments. There's a lot of build-up and developing mystery afoot here. They're Evangelion comfort food, stuck between the first 8 episodes of introduction delivering you to the Evangelion world and characters, and the mania and madness to come with the last stretch of episodes. But I think we should talk about these episodes more, so let's do that. There are tons of cute character moments that go overlooked in this middle section of the series. And after my about 17 times through the series, some of these moments now stand out to me as key pieces of characterization for these densely written characters. Shinji watching Rei wring out a wet cloth in the back of the classroom, and then later telling her in the elevator that she looked like a mother while doing it, and then jesting that perhaps she'd make a good housewife, and Rei blushing, is key Rei characterization to me. Of course she's motherly, it's so obvious, I exclaim. Though perhaps I never would have realized that she is without this scene. It's such a cool, small little piece of characterization that goes a long way, I think, and is one of the littler nuances that I think make Evangelion's character writing and characterization so full. It's like her telling everybody that she's a vegetarian at dinner. Of course she is. That's such a Rei thing to be. Oh, also, did I fail to mention that her reaction here is about the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen? Her trying to deflect before the scene ends is brilliant. What are you saying? She's embarrassed. Aww. Another great moment comes at the end of episode 16. After Shinji's had a bad day at the office, nearly dying as his life support slowly failed after he was cut off from his power cable, after being trapped in another dimension by an angel. It was a whole thing. He finds himself in the hospital. An Evangelion classic. Rei is standing over him worried. They like each other at this point. She got very mad at Asuka earlier in the episode for saying Shinji deserved what happened to him because he was arrogant after scoring higher in the sync test than her earlier that day and overextended on his initial attack on the angel. This was all, mind you, while they presumed him dead. Not cool, Asuka. Very cold. That moment itself from Rei was very cute, and her waiting by his hospital bed is about the cutest fucking thing you've ever seen. She likes Akari-kun. Aww. But the cutest fucking thing you've actually ever seen comes next when Rei goes to immediately leave after Shinji wakes up and is fine, a very Rei maneuver, and the door opens. And Asuka unexpectedly allows her concern for Shinji to be seen as she was listening in through the door, clearly worried about Baka Shinji. Her reaction to getting caught is gold, and so is Shinji's smile in response. It's the most blatant example in the entire series of Asuka being concerned for Shinji, and a key piece of Asuka characterization in my mind, despite how brief of a moment it is. These are both actually moments that I didn't remember going into my most recent rewatch of the series, kinda proving, I guess, that these episodes are often too commonly overlooked even by Ava's most fervent fans. These little moments are now ingrained into my brain as key moments in the characterization of crucial members of the Evangelion cast, and now I appreciate them properly. But as the title would indicate, another one of these cute character moments that I'm counting on you having forgotten about, like I had, is when they did the Shinji enters Rei's apartment unannounced scene the second time around in episode 17, and how it characterized Shinji at that point, and is a major display of his character growth throughout the series. Episode 5 hosts one of the more infamous scenes from early Evangelion, the rather awkward apartment encounter between Shinji and Rei. Unlike the moments I've highlighted in this video so far, this is probably a scene you remember rather vividly. But before we delve directly into this scene, it's important that we understand the context of the episode surrounding it, and where our featured characters are at this point in the series. The episode opens with a flashback of Unit Zero freaking out after rejecting Rei as a pilot, and Rei getting injured as she is emergency ejected from the Evangelion. This all takes place chronologically before Shinji shows up in Tokyo 3 in episode 1, and answers the question of why Rei was in such rough shape in episode 1. All of this could have been inferred from references in the first few episodes, but the important new piece of information here is that Gendo put himself at risk and burnt the skin off his hands in order to free Rei from the ejected entry plug here. This is a compassionate, caring side of Gendo that's been entirely absent from his characters so far in the series. His glasses are also ruined in this affair, and Rei will take them as a memento for this moment moving forward. The next scene of the episode is Nerve cleaning up and investigating the battle site for episode 3's Angel Battle. While hanging out with Misato and Ritsuko, Shinji notices that his father's hands are burnt and asks Ritsuko about it, and she tells him about the incident with Rei that we just saw. This seems to make Shinji a delicate mix of curious and jealous. He's never seen his father act caring or warm to anyone, not even to him. Who must this Rei girl be to inspire these acts from Gendo? He must wonder. What does she have that I don't? We then cut to Shinji at school in PE class, and the boys and girls have been split up. The boys are doing athletics and the girls are swimming. This must be something Japanese schools do or something. Anyway, in male fashion, the guys are all perving on the girls swimming, and Toji and Kensuke catch Shinji particularly focusing on Rei and make fun of him for having a crush on her. They imply that since both Shinji and Rei are Ava pilots that they ought to be pretty close, but Shinji tells them that he knows just as little about her as they do. Shinji tries to play it off that his curiosity in Rei is simply a platonic one, but through this scene another layer is added to this dynamic. Shinji is curious about who Rei is, about what her relationship with his father is like, and he is potentially jealous of her and her relationship with his father. But now we're adding that he may or may not have a crush on her, which he probably does since he's a 14-year-old boy. There are layers to Shinji's complicated feelings and the dynamic here. Layers upon layers, that's the Evangelion way. Shinji in the next scene, while doing a sync test, oversees an interaction between Rei and his father, and it only thickens his curiosity and potential jealousy. Rei, seeing Gendo approaching her, skips off Unit 0 and rushes over to him like a giddy schoolgirl. Look at the way she holds her arms. She's even smiling as she talks to him, and then he smiles back at her. Both uncharacteristic expressions from both these stoic and seemingly unfeeling characters. Shinji cannot hear the conversation, but the whole scenario further perplexes and adds to his mixed emotions, no doubt. We then cut to Ritsuko having dinner with Shinji and Misato in their apartment. There's some cute comedy about how gross Misato is and how bad her cooking is. Even my boy Pen is struggling to get a good feed out here. Eventually, Ritsuko asks Shinji to deliver Rei's new nerve clearance card to her at her apartment, which should give him an opportunity to investigate his curiosities. Misato and Ritsuko catch him staring at Rei's card, and they imply that he's looking at her picture, and also make fun of him for potentially having a crush. Misato points out that this is his opportunity. He's got an excuse to go and see her, which obviously works on both the level Shinji's trying to sell, that he's just innocently curious about her, and on the potential non-platonic one, if Shinji's actually crushing on her. But it's clear that Shinji doesn't like people getting the impression that he has romantic intentions with Rei. This will be taken to the extreme in our titular scene. Where the truth lies in Shinji's motivation here is obviously left ambiguous, but I think it's a mix of emotions between the innocent curiosity, the potential jealousy, and the potential crush he has. Basically a little of all of the above. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we get to the scene of the hour in the apartment. This scene opens with various establishing shots of the less than desirable neighborhood that Rei lives in. The roads are cracked, the apartment buildings look like they're about to fall over, everything looks dirty, windows of neighboring apartments are broken. It's not the home that Misato's apartment is. If Gendo cares about Rei so much, why is she stuck in a place like this, we're meant to ask. When Rei doesn't answer the doorbell, Shinji trepidatiously enters through the unlocked front door, announcing himself, again to no response. The shots of inside of Rei's apartment reflect the depravity of the establishing shots outside. She doesn't take her shoes off inside, there are dirty shoe prints everywhere, there's papers all over the place. It looks like an unkept hospital room, with blood staining her pillow, bloody rags all over the place, pills everywhere, and no decorative furniture or anything outside of the essential. potential. Shinji then notices the odd pair of glasses, seemingly the one bit of personalization in the room, the one sentimental object Rei owns. The initial shot of Shinji seeing the glasses is clever, because it symbolizes the roots of Shinji's mixed emotions throughout the episode towards Rei and his father. The glasses themselves represent Rei and Gendo's relationship, invoking Shinji's curiosity about that and his potential jealousies about that. And the underwear drawer slightly opened underneath, evident yet hidden, represents Shinji's potential horny desires towards Rei, evident yet hidden. Ava's got some great visuals, who knew? Shinji wonders what the glasses are, as obviously he doesn't know that they're his father's. He wonders if they're Rei's, though they don't seem to be. She doesn't wear glasses after all. And he even eventually puts them on himself. Rei then enters the scene drying off from a shower, explaining why she didn't answer the door earlier or hear him announcing himself in. Now this is of course set up for an anime classic. Boy accidentally, through a misunderstanding, sees girl in a compromising position. Girl freaks out, slaps the boy. Boy makes a wacky face, and cue the funny music. Evangelion intentionally, instead of doing this, invokes some very awkward yet effective realism, which shows how peculiar these characters actually are, in comparison to normal, functioning people. Shinji starts off in his role of freaking out and failing to explain the situation, and Rei starts off in her role by rushing over to him. But then Rei goes with velocity for the glasses instead of the slap, because that's what she cares about in this situation, not being seen naked. So when they tumble after this, and Shinji ends up rather provocatively looming over Rei, even with his hand on her boob, she doesn't flinch, she doesn't care. She just protects the glasses on the way down and then asks him to get off blankly after a long awkward pause, and then ignores him as she gets dressed and leaves for Nerve HQ. The slap doesn't come until they're on the escalator at Nerve HQ and Shinji badmouths his father, which again is what Rei actually cares about. Shinji, however, in all this is freaking out, thinking Rei more normal than she is, and that she'll freak out and think he's some perv, or assume what everyone else has been assuming of him all episode about his potential indecent motivation towards her. It turns out Rei doesn't really understand those types of emotions, at least not yet, and the only thing she is emotionally invested in is the glasses and all they represent, at least for now. So she doesn't assume or think anything about Shinji. This unaware, uncaring demeanor from Rei is why her living space is the way it is. She doesn't know what's normal. She's had minimal interactions with others and isn't very socially aware. She's naked around people all the time in sustenance tanks or whatever, so being naked around people isn't really a big deal to her either, nor does she know that it should be. Obviously, Rei's journey throughout the series is her becoming an actual independent person with her own emotions and motivations, but this is at the beginning of her journey. Shinji hasn't been let in on any of this, and this plays into their interpersonal dynamic here and moving forward, with them getting closer through the rest of this episode and of course the next one. This first scene epitomizes early Shinji's awkwardness, social ineptitude, lack of confidence, and crippling mixed emotions. He can't assert himself, he doesn't know what he wants, he doesn't know how to interact with people very well, and he doesn't know how to help people. This is important to establish, because all this serves to be juxtaposed completely by the second time this scene plays out in episode 17, and to show just how much Shinji has grown in just 12 episodes. Episode 17 is a whole different world than episode 5 for Shinji, as an individual and interpersonally. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at here. This is potentially the best state we've ever seen Shinji's life in. His relationship with his friends are healthy, his relationship with Misato is great, Rei 2 is still alive, and his relationship with her has only continued to build after the smile at the end of episode 6, including those two scenes we mentioned at the beginning of the video from episodes 15 and 16. His relationship with Asuka is pretty good too. They fight all the time, but not in the I hate you way they do shortly after this, but in the married couple way their classmates make fun of them for. His relationship with Gendo is even doing okay after he praised Shinji a few episodes prior, though that one won't survive the next episode. So when Shinji and Toji are tasked to take homework handouts to Rei at her apartment, a very different scenario to the last time Shinji visited plays out. The establishing shots for this scene are nearly identical to the first one, with the same drumming sound effect repeating in the background and the same shots of the sorry neighborhood. Shinji even looks up at Rei's room number plate. It also has her name on it. That must be a Japanese thing, with the same curious look. But everything else that follows is anything but the scene from episode 5. When Rei once again doesn't answer her doorbell, Shinji this time confidently announces that they are going in, and when questioned by Toji if that's such a good idea, Shinji blows him off, and charges in anyway. He whips off his shoes and strolls on in there, whereas Toji tiptoes in as Shinji did last time. Toji's blown away by the absolute state of Rei's room, but Shinji just looks on in disapproval. The bitch you live like this meme on repeat in his head. Toji even notices the glasses the same way Shinji did last time. This new Shinji, however, this 12 episodes later Shinji, he ain't no passive bitch. He's a man of action, and he starts cleaning up this dump, because he fixes things he disapproves of. Toji also questions if that's a good idea, and refuses to help and throws some casual sexism in, saying that cleaning up isn't a man's job, and he watches Shinji clean the whole damn room. Toji even also comments here that Shinji's changed so much, to really drive home the point that this scene is to demonstrate Shinji's character growth. The parallel is then capped off by Rei entering the scene out of nowhere like in the first scene, with the same non-reaction. It's cute. Toji announces why they are there and Rei seems unimpressed. Perhaps she's learnt to dislike homework. Shinji then explains that he cleaned up the place for her and Rei blushes. But it's not a romantic blush, like that she's turned on by Shinji's cleaning prowess or something, or thinks that maybe he would be a good housewife, but out of embarrassment that Shinji took it upon himself to clean her dirty room for her. It's very cute. She's very pulled back in this moment that Shinji would go out of his way to do this for her. Shinji's not the only character that's grown over these last 12 episodes. Rei has developed enough emotionally to understand embarrassment. She even says thank you in return for the favor. We then cut to Shinji and Toji leaving and Toji commenting that Eva pilots sure are weird. The episode in which we find out that he's the fourth child. How clever. Then we cut back to Rei in her room, lying on her freshly Shinji cleaned bed, reflecting on what she just felt and her saying thank you, realizing that it's the first time she had ever said those words. We flash to the glasses briefly and Rei remarks that she's never even said them to him, meaning Gendo, and the scene ends. Rei is developing into a normal person more and more every day. She's learning what it feels like to be embarrassed, and she's instinctually saying thank you to people. And for a character whose internal struggle as a clone entirely revolves around becoming or feeling like a human, or somebody that fits in, that's really heartwarming. And while this scene does show Rei's development, it is primarily a vehicle to show Shinji's development. By doing the episode 5 scene again. He's grown so much in 12 episodes. The scenes are almost opposites. This is peak Chad Shinji, which we get a lot of in this middle group of episodes, from episodes 9 to 17. As I went over earlier, this is Shinji living his best life with positive relationships with most of the key people in his life. And he's developed to the point where now he's helping them with their development also, like what he does with Rei here. He's making the people around him happy. This middle part of Eva is imperative in Eva's macro structure, because Shinji has to have learned what can be good about life, so it can all be taken away from him for the series to work. It truly is a tragic thing. Rei 2 in the coming episodes will die. Toji will be maimed by Unit 1's hand, and that'll also ruin Shinji's relationship with his father. Asuka and Masato are both going to fall apart in the coming episodes after Asuka is rendered unable to pilot Unit 2, and Masato suffers through Kaji's death at the hands of Nerve. They aren't going to be there for Shinji. All his other friends and schoolmates are going to move away, only for him to make a new friend in Karu, who ends up being an angel that is killed by Unit 1's hand, this time of Shinji's own volition. Things get bad for Shinji after this, but that's kind of the point structurally. Evangelion is structured to start with Shinji having nothing. The only thing Shinji ever talks about from his days before he showed up in Tokyo 3 is his teacher, who is never even named, and who he doesn't seem to have been personally particularly close to. He comes to Tokyo 3 chasing a single word letter from his father simply telling him to come. The first few episodes of the series show Shinji with nothing. No reason to live, no purpose, no family or friends, no life. Shinji then slowly gains those things, Misato becomes his surrogate mother and he lives happily with her. He makes friends at school with Toji and Kensuke. He befriends Rei through episodes 5 and 6, and then meets Asuka in episode 8, his new surrogate sister/girlfriend, who also comes to live with him and Misato. These are the introductory episodes of Evangelion. Episodes 9 through 17, as we've mentioned throughout this video, are the middle part of the series that we should appreciate more. All Shinji's bonds grow. Shinji develops as a person. These are the happy times where Shinji has a purpose, has a family and friends, and a busy life. This is important in teaching Shinji and the audience that a good and happy life is attainable and worthwhile. Episodes 18 through 24 are about taking all that away from Shinji. It's about the tragedy of life. That something that once made you feel so good could be the source of a great pain. Once you live life and have things that are precious to you, and those things are taken away, you get depressed. And ask yourself if it was even worth it to have been happy in the first place if you're now so sad. Now you know what you're missing. Should we all not just surrender under the weight of life and sadness and give in to the human instrumentality project as Seele decrees? Episodes 25 and 26 and the end of Evangelion are the climax of Shinji's journey and of this structure. Have nothing, get everything, lose everything, and then realize that all you can do is keep trying to actualize that happy life again. And that there's no use in just surrendering and giving up on your individuality, because only as a person, as you, can you ever hope to achieve happiness again. Both Ava's original endings embody this happy conclusion. This 4-part structure is the backbone of Evangelion and its message. A message about not giving up on people and happiness, and trying to fight through the hurtful times. This 4-part structure also perfectly maps onto the 4 Rebuild films, with each movie mapping onto one of these parts of the structure. But exploring that much more and explaining why I love the Rebuilds just as much as the original series now is something that I want to get into in a much bigger future video. So you'll have to stick around for that. Better subscribe. If you simply can't wait to hear my thoughts on the Rebuilds, boy do I have 4 movie reviews on the second channel waiting for you. But that's ultimately why I think that we should all appreciate episodes 9 through 17 of Evangelion more than we already do. They might not be the most memorable episodes of Eva, and they might not progress the plot too much, but not only are they host to some incredible character moments and a lot of cuteness, as we've demonstrated throughout the video, but because it's a vital piece of the larger structural puzzle that is Evangelion. Support links in the description below. Thanks.